A little apology before I even begin talking about the subject matter that this video deals with. I'm sorry, Granddad, I'm about to make a video about the monarchy, the British monarchy, in which I don't necessarily say that they are bad. I'm sorry. Do you forgive me? Or do you forgive me? Wherever you are. Canada, like Great Britain, is technically a monarchy, and like Great Britain, the monarch is the position of the monarchy is largely ceremonial. I was asked a while back in a personal message to give my opinions on the monarchy, and this is a $2 Canadian coin. It's called a toonie, based upon the name of the Canadian dollar coin, a loonie. So a $1 coin was a loonie, so when a $2 coin came along, it became a toonie. You see when I held it up to the camera, if you could, that there's a image of Queen Elizabeth II on there. So for better or for worse, the Queen is a symbol of the Canadian state, Canadian tradition, Canadian continuity, whatever you want to call it. And for better or for worse, I would say that the broad mass of Canadians are not what one would call monarchists, but pro-monarch. And interestingly, as Canada becomes more multicultural, as more people from different walks of life arrive in Canada, that situation actually is, as far as I can tell, on the increase, because the immigrants love the idea of having a monarch. They like this symbol. They like to go out and see all the royals when there's an official visit to Canada. Everyone really enjoys it. It gets front page coverage in the newspaper. No one really takes it all that seriously. Nobody thinks that these foreign royals, or I don't really know if the British are considered foreign to Canadians even now to this day, but these royals that live across the ocean really have any political relevance to the country. But generally, the institution is not seriously questioned. Not a lot of Canadians seriously want to abolish the monarchy or break ties with the British monarchy. And I would say that that sense of continuity is what underpins the Canadian political system, as it does the British political system. Canada does technically have a constitution. We've had one since, I think it was 1982. But our political system is much older than that being essentially an offshoot of the British system, a parliamentary system that's been adapted as a federal system in Canada, whereas in Britain it's not a federal system, or not to the extent of Canada. But still, it's a parliamentary government based on the British design. And the parliamentary system is the result of probably 1,500 years, if not more, of evolution. There was never a serious disruption and never a conscious destruction of the existing order aimed at replacing it with something better. It was always a case of evolving. The monarch's powers were slowly clawed back. In the one point where the monarchy was abolished, it was brought back not that much later. And everybody actually seemed to be happy that it was that the monarch was back, the monarchy was back. This sense of continuity with the past is symbolized by the monarchy, and I think it's one of the things that causes Canadians to respect the law. I'm not saying Canadians are any more law-abiding or any less than anyone else, but one of the things that underpins any legal system or any desire to show deference to authority or deference to the law, far more important, is the fact that it's always been with us. That is kind of the Canadian and the British mindset. It constantly gets changed, but it gets changed in increments and not in a way that really upsets the system as a whole. The system itself may change radically over a period of 200 or 300 years, but it changes in such a way that the change is not sudden. Now, countries with a revolutionary tradition like France and the United States, at some formative time in their history, consciously broke with the past, abolished everything, and decided to build anew from scratch. Now, that's why when Americans tend to talk about their political system, they refer to the Constitution. They refer to who has the legitimate authority under this document. There's no appeal to tradition because tradition was consciously rejected during the American Revolution. The same thing happened in France. Now the problem with that is, when you do that, in people's minds, it sort of creates a vacuum of legitimacy. So what you have to do is, you have to replace that with something else. The United States, in my opinion, has replaced the monarchy, or that feeling of legitimacy, that emotional attachment to the law, to the state, to the society that you belong to, and just going along with the way things are. That's been replaced with the American flag, the reverence that Americans traditionally show to their flag, the reverence for the Constitution, and a type of American patriotism which is evident in both liberal and conservative circles. They might not agree on what patriotism is, but both sides tend to agree that patriotism is a very good thing. I won't say Americans are fanatically patriotic, but they tend to be more openly patriotic than most other countries I'm familiar with. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's simply, that's America's version of continuity. That's America's version of unity, is patriotism. France has done the same thing, if you ask me, a little bit differently. They've almost turned their presidency into a monarchy in itself. Up until Sarkozy, or perhaps up until Chirac, most monarchs were that was an interesting Freudian slip. Most French presidents were expected to act royally. Charles de Gaulle is the best example of that. He was the president of France, but he acted essentially like he was the king of France. He identified himself, apparently psychologically, with France. His identity coincided with that of France. So the presidency, or the republic, la république, is what has replaced the monarchy in people's minds in terms of deference, in terms of legitimacy. So the monarchy might be an important part of our political system, even though we don't really see that on a day-to-day basis, because it's a link, it's a focus point for our minds with the traditions that have created our system, and with the fact that tradition underpins our system, as it does the British system, in a way that it doesn't in, say, revolutionary countries, or countries with revolutionary traditions, like Russia, France, the United States, China, whatever. It's just my opinion on the monarchy. I would say that it might be necessary to, at least for the time being, for our political system. I don't really advocate its abolition, but I wouldn't get too choked up if it were abolished. As to how that would affect our political system, I think that remains to be seen. Thank you.